Evaluation versus judgment. Why these two words are important in life, whether in sports, whether in life, whether your career. These two words are some of the most important words you can learn. And a lot of people try to villainize the word judgment. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. But how do you know what is the proper thing to do if you don't have the proper evaluation or the proper judgment? How do you know if you're dealing with a good person, a person that's beneficial to be around, if you don't have a proper evaluation or judgment? So we're gonna get into some of those definitions real quick. So evaluation is the making of a judgment about the amount, number, or value of something. It's an assessment. So when you evaluate something, you're looking at different factors, whether it's let's say if you're evaluating the house, you're looking at the plumbing, you're looking at the structure, you're looking in the attic, what the attic looks like, what the rafters look like, you're looking at the roof, paint, all those things. It factors into the judgment of that, the valuation of the assessment of that house, the value of that house. Is this house worth $300,000? What they advertising it for? Is it worth that based off the evaluation of your assessment? What is that worth? But you have to be able to evaluate. When you deal with people, you may not get all the information at one time, but as you get information, you have to be constantly making evaluations. If they show you something, you're like, I didn't think they would be capable of this, especially when you're younger. When you get older, you've dealt with so many people and evaluated so many personalities. It's not really about the person. Like I said, it's the pattern and the personality that a person. Oh yeah, big mistake. My bad, Chris Collins. That's my fault, bro. Big mistake on Urban. He's only going to stay maybe 3 years, and if it doesn't go his way, he's going to say he has a health problem, a family time. Yeah, he do. He got to wait. That he got an exit plan, just like with evaluation, right? When you evaluate and judge him based off of his past experiences, he'll always pull something out the hat about his health. Or if the team is losing, he always do something crazy. Like I remember when the Jags lost, instead of going with the team because he was the head coach, he stayed behind and went to the bar or something like that. And I guess he owned it and had a good time at the bar. But you got to be able to evaluate and judge that. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Once you make that evaluation. So evaluation and judgment is a part of life. Some of the keys to evaluation is the appraisal of something to determine its worth or fitness. When you think about a coach, you have to make that appraisal. You have to make that evaluation. Is this coach good for our franchise? Whether you're courting a woman for marriage, you have to make that appraisal, that evaluation. Is this woman worth me spending the rest of my life with? What I'm looking at right now, the stuff that I have saw, that's why it takes time to make proper evaluations, proper appraisals. It takes time to do those things. Just like in sports, it takes time. In football, you have to play college football for 3 years, and they get 3 years of game film on you to make that proper evaluation before you get to judgment. You have to evaluate. Same way in life, rather than career, your resume. It kind of helps in making the appraisal or evaluation that you're good or you qualify for this position that you're trying to get. So evaluation is a part of life. You have to do it. You can't just be around somebody and not evaluate them, or you could be putting yourself in harm's way. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a woman that you're possibly looking at to be your spouse, or just anybody you're around, you have to be careful because if you don't, they can put you in a bad position. And you never want to be around somebody that will put you in a bad position on purpose. You got to make that evaluation though and understand. All right, judgment. A lot of people have villainized this word, but you do judgment. You make judgment calls every day, whether you believe it or not. If you drive a car, you have to make judgments every time, whether it's going down the street, who pulling out, what's the traffic, when do I turn? Do I turn now? Do I wait? Based on the timing, you got to make that judgment call. Judgment, the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. You have to make judgments. A lot of times people say, don't judge me, but they don't realize you're putting out information or data for somebody to evaluate and to make a judgment, me included. I put out data and people make an evaluation and judge based on the data that I put out. If I do a bunch of lousy things, I put out that data, guess what? They're going to judge me based on the things that I put out. Now, are there places where people judge you without knowing the data? Sure. And most people do that as well. They just don't say it out loud. Sometimes you have to make those kind of calls because you don't want to put yourself in harm's way. You don't want to be in legal situations. So sometimes you have to make a judgment. Sometimes I'd rather overthink it and be wrong than underthink it and be in a situation that I don't want to be in. That's how I look at it sometimes. Sometimes when it comes to race, some people make judgments based on race. Sometimes that happens. But in order to have the winning mindset, like I talk about, you got to be able to endure those things. Judgments against you that's not fair, judgment against you that's wrong, and the person don't even have limited knowledge. And here's the thing, right? I love to hear some of the stuff people say because it lets me know how much they know. Because I know about me more than anybody else. And if somebody say Mike doing this, like, oh, they don't know. They are nowhere close. Their judgment is off. But if you never hear that, you wouldn't know. A lot of times people judge some things that they don't know. And then sometimes people judge what they do know. You have to make that judgment call. Like if I know that you're capable of doing something crazy, I'm not going to go places with somebody that could put me in a legal battle position because my evaluation based on the data that I know and the judgment that I'm making is I'm not doing it. I'm not looking at it as you're a bad person. I'm just looking at it as I have to make sure that I'm not in a legal situation where I have to defend something that I didn't even sign up for, but I have to make that judgment up front. The more you can make evaluations and judge, the better off you will be to avoid situations. And anybody try to debate that, I don't know why, but I'm telling you from experience is that judgment, evaluation and judgment is a part of life. The better you get at it, the better you start getting at life. Making choices. Do I go work at this place? Do I go work at that place? Well, where information did you get or what information do you have to make the proper evaluation and then you make the judgment? I got the information, I got the proper data. The people said this job based on their experiences, not just one, but many experiences to come up with a main thesis. I'm going to choose job A instead of job B because job A is getting better reviews than job B based on my evaluation. Same way with sports. Every position in sports, or we're like saying in football, cornerbacks have to make an evaluation and then make a judgment call. And how do they do that? They study game film, they work on their technique, and then when the game time comes, he comes to the line, he's looking at that wide receiver, he's making evaluation and judgments just like that. And a play probably lasts average 3 to maybe 4 seconds. You have to think about all these things, all these judgments and evaluations in real time. In about 3 seconds or the play's over. You have to judge the ball. When the ball's in there, you got to track the ball. You got to say, where's the ball? Do I get here? Do I go here? or do I just stay right here? You got to make that judgment call based on where the ball is. Quarterbacks have to do this constantly. If you got 3 wide receivers and a tight end, that's 4 people. You have to look at those routes and you have to make those judgment calls. Where is this ball gonna go? Same way with life. You may have 4 things going on. You might have to make that judgment call. What has the top priority at this point? You have to think about all those things. What if the data is old? People change for the better or worse. God knows I'm not like I used to be. I don't have no problem with that. That is awesome. That's why you constantly take in data to make that evaluation. I'm glad you said that because I'm not saying it like nobody. I don't understand nobody's perfect. Nobody is, but you still have to make those evaluations because I understand nobody's perfect. We all been there. We all make mistakes. But there are some mistakes that you can avoid or some situations you can avoid by making a proper evaluation. Like I don't want judging somebody just saying, they just a totally terrible person. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that to understand in life, because you got a lot of kids out here. They're being influenced by people to do things. They're not making a proper evaluation or the proper judgment to say it's not worth it. I don't want to do 25 to life in jail. So my evaluation is it's not worth it. My judgment is I'm going home. I'm not getting involved. Or I'm not going to mess around with this type of woman based on my evaluation and the data that I took in because the judgment of the consequences is telling me that it's not going to be well if I do that, if I go down this path. That's what I'm saying. Using it to make good decisions in life to avoid some of the pitfalls that's avoidable as much as you can. We have to teach our kids, our youth. Even I had to learn this older in life, into my middle, I think I like around 25, 30, just out there. I had to learn how to make good evaluations and good judgments. And that's just how the game go. Because a lot of times you be naive, the world doesn't care if you're naive. Yep, life ain't nothing but choices. Then people have to deal with the consequences, like you said. And once you understand that life is choices, you got to slow down enough to make that choice. That's the key. If you can slow it down just enough so you can understand that you're making a choice. Because when you're going out there drilling somebody, you got to make that choice. Like, do I need to do this or am I doing this because of something else? And that's the problem with you. They making that choice so fast, and you don't realize you made a choice so fast until you sitting in the penitentiary doing 25 to life. And that sucks because if you could have slowed it down just enough, maybe you had a better chance of making a good judgment instead of making a mistake that's hard to take back, especially when you get in the law, in the system. Really hard to get out the system. And I say judgment key. Good judgment is based on your own values, your own beliefs, and principles. You have to constantly update your values, your beliefs, and principles. Why? Because like Chris said, stuff gets old, and you have to be able to adapt with the times. Things that went on 10 years ago, how things went, it's a whole nother world now, 10 years later. Whole nother world. Whether it's men dealing with women, whole nother world. Whether it's navigating your career, a whole nother world. Back then, you used to go work at a factory, no degree. You can work your way up and have a better chance at success. Now, man, you got to be qualified in so much stuff now, but you got to make that evaluation. What do I get qualified in? What does the data say based on the area that I lived in, that I live in? Like I said, I live in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's where I live. And a lot of things from my perspective and the things that I was exposed to in Little Rock, the things that are really high value is valued by a lot of companies, like say real estate. Like I said, I work in IT, tech, and our young people need to hear this part of the podcast. I know that's why I'm making it. I hope they come back and watch it. But like I said, I've been doing this for like a couple years, so just growing little bit by little bit, man. But I appreciate the love, man. I appreciate that, Chris. Appreciate that. But yeah, and we have to update our values, beliefs, and principles. The things I valued in my 20s is totally different than what I value now in my 40s. I'd be honest, in beliefs and principles. When I was in my 20s, sometimes you feel like you're invincible. You feel like you got a lot of time. Oh, I'm 20. I got enough time. I can slip up now, and I can make up for it later. But as you get older, you start to realize you don't need to slip up if you can avoid it, because it takes longer to make up for the slip ups. Just like watching sports, you see cornerbacks. If that cornerback don't make the right moves in that first probably second and a half on that receiver, it's hard for him to make that up. Like let's say like you covering Randy Moss. Randy Moss run a fly route. If you don't open your hips up and run at the right time, you're gonna get burnt by Randy Moss. And it's no matter how you can turn your hips and try to recover, it's done. It's nothing you can do. Same way in life. If you can make some mistakes and you have to know what mistakes you can't make as an individual, it take a longer to recover from, especially as you get older. So always remember that. Update your own values, beliefs, and principles. You have to. Like I used to believe that I didn't have to go to school when I was in my 20s. Oh, I ain't got to go to school, man. I can just work a job and I'll be straight. But what happens is when you start updating your values, beliefs, and principles, you start realizing that you're not making enough money to take care of your family, pay the bills, and then have money to save, and then have money to go on vacation. I think people just can't visualize like those four, like kind of five categories that cost money. And people saying it's not about the money, I'm going to say you probably need to update your values, beliefs, and principles. Unless you just comfortable living, at just enough to get by. But there is greater out there. I had to learn that. I had to update my own values, beliefs, and principles to understand that there is more out there to get. I just got to know how to go out there and go get it. So with that being said, that was a spiel right there. But you have to get good at those things in life. So with